Tonight's webinar was actually at the suggestion of one of our staff. In fact, I give a lot of credit to tonight's broadcast to our health and wellness coordinator, Elise Mitchell. And Elise has done a lot to bring a mindfulness practice to our program. I was asked just the other day about what's the biggest difference that I've seen in the past 20 years or so with wellness therapy, and this mindfulness approach, this mindfulness addition, this meditation, yoga, and mindfulness practice has been one of those changes. And I think that's really happened with a lot of therapy. We've seen the benefits of this kind of Eastern way of thinking and how it can help with depression, anxiety. I like it because it's a skill and a tool that our clients can bring with them. I like the practice myself as I've been introduced to it over the past few years. I like it as a practice that I use. And I want to talk about it tonight. I'll talk about this toward the end about how it can apply in our daily lives, living our meditation. It's something that, of course, we can do to ground ourselves, to calm ourselves in moments of anxiety. But does it translate over to the everyday, to the here and now, when you're sitting on the subway, when you're driving in traffic? What application can it have there? So with that, let me get right into this particular one. So loving kindness is one of the meditations that we introduce to our clients. It's also one of the meditations that we introduce in our program, in our Finding You program, in our Finding Family program. We try to teach, introduce people to various form of mindfulness and meditation practices to give them some exposure. It's also called metta. Metta is from the Pali, means benevolence, loving kindness, friendliness, amity, goodwill, and active interest in others. That's what it means. The cultivation of benevolence is a popular form of meditation in Buddhism. According to the Metta Sutta, a discourse written out in the Pali Canon, Buddha held that cultivation of the four immeasurables has the power to cause the practitioner to be reborn into a more enlightened being. The meditator is instructed to radiate out to all beings in all directions the mental states of loving kindness or benevolence, or metta, compassion, and empathic joy and equanimity. So this is just some of the background. Like I said, this is not an area of my long-term expertise. It's a fairly recent practice for me, but it's something that we share with our clients. So let's talk about what is the metta, what is the loving kindness meditation. And I'm going to walk you through it and walk you through some tips. And I'm going to give you, at the end, I'm going to give you some places, some websites you can go. You can Google it or go to the websites that I supply you to have an audio or a video and audio guided meditation in metta. Visualize a sacred space, one of beauty, peace, and comfort. Allow your mind's eye to take in all the details of this space. Place yourself in this space. A lot of guided meditations will ask you to go to a safe and a special or sacred place. Visualize a ball of light radiating from your heart center. It sits just outside of your chest. How bright? Does it provide warmth? Does it change the rhythm of your breath or pulse with your heartbeat? Invite one person into your space. This person may be someone you love, someone in need of healing, someone you have a conflict with, or yourself. Position them across from you at the level where you are eye to eye, heart to heart. When I've heard this practice introduced to clients, I've heard it where they ask them to bring in a neutral person, somebody that they find it easy to love, somebody that they have a conflict with, something unresolved, find it more difficult to love, and then lastly, to bring themselves, to visualize themselves into this place. Notice the details of the person. What is the expression on their face? What is the reaction to seeing you? Focus on your breath, the ball of light, and now the person in front of you as well. As you focus on this person, think of a quality within them in need of healing. Perhaps it is anger, regret, guilt, sadness, self-doubt, self-loathing. Visualize this quality, this quality that's in need of healing, as a dark vapor or black smoke surrounding the person. Does it radiate from everywhere or from a particular place in their body? Are they noticeably uncomfortable? Now begin to breathe in this black smoke. Inhale it through your nose and let it collect in your chest. Continue to breathe it in, allowing it to swell in your chest. As it enters your body, it is leaving the person in front of you. See them with a growing sense of peace, health, and joy. Continue to take in this smoke until the very last bit of it has left your guest and resides entirely in your chest cavity. Begin to breathe into the ball of light in front of you. As it enters your chest cavity, it is changing the smoke into light. Continue to breathe in this light with each inhale and allow it to alchemize the dark into light until there's only light beaming from your heart center. Allow this light to bathe from your being in peace, love, health, relief, and happiness. Feel it nurture your body, spirit, and mind, and enjoy its radiance. Now, with one strong exhale, release this radiant light out into the world. Allow it to travel on the winds, spreading peace, health, and happiness to everyone it reaches. I'm going to pause. That's a mouthful. I think I'll start with this idea. In essence, when I think about the LKM, the metta, the loving kindness, I think about it a lot in the same way that I think about therapy, that I think about parenting when I talk about containing. In a lot of ways, you're kind of absorbing the pain, the woundedness, the anger, whatever is the thing that is troubling the person. And then you're mixing that, or you're metabolizing that through this light, and you're letting it go. So you're taking in the pain. So while this is a visual meditative practice, it also very, very much is the kind of thing that I talk about all the time in therapy and in parenting, where it takes great capacity to be able to do this. It takes love and compassion to be able to do this. So I think it's a wonderful image, and this practice for me as a clinician has informed my therapy, has informed my parenting. And I think about it when I hear somebody expressing anger, even if it's toward me, or any kind of pain in their life toward me. I think about, and I lightly meditate on this meditation while I'm listening to them. Some tips: begin by focusing on the breath first, slowing and deepening, letting go of distractions. Take time to process afterwards, and focus on the feelings and sensations that come up with you. Like all meditations, and I think this lends itself well to our daily practice. Be kind to yourself. Sometimes when I practice the loving kindness meditation, my focus is easy and consistent, and sometimes I go in and out of it. What I've learned for myself with the practice of meditation is to observe that rather than judge that and be critical of that. Just to notice that my mind is thinking about the next activity of my day, or some stress about some bill that I have to pay, or something like that. And being kind to that, I can then gently bring myself back. So paying attention to what's going on instead of judging it is an essential piece of meditation and mindfulness practice. One suggestion is to do this while walking around. Walk at a comfortable pace. This is a walking meditation. Say one or more of the following phrases, repeating them. Notice and try to manage a slow, steady pace of breath while doing this. May I be filled with love and kindness. May I be well. May I be carefree. May I be peaceful. While doing this practice, stop periodically to notice the sky, the trees, and details of life around you. Let yourself receive these messages. Try this again, focusing on somebody else in your thoughts. So the meditation that I practice, that I do, includes these sayings. Each time I say this thing to the person in front of me that I'm visualizing. May I be filled, when I'm talking about myself, I talk about, may I be filled with loving kindness. When I'm talking about them, I talk about, may they be filled with loving kindness. May they be well. May they be carefree. May they be peaceful. May they be free from suffering. Right? I repeat that over and over again. And it's I think it's fascinating for me. Again, I'm not an expert in this. This is just a new practice to me. But I'm especially fascinated when I bring the person into my awareness that I have conflict with, that I have unresolved feelings with. How capable am I of doing that? Can I do that? And again, trying to be kind and gentle with myself. Can I do it easily? Can I do it well? Do I get better at it as I go? It helps for me to start off with neutral, to somebody that's easy to love, to somebody that I have conflict with, to kind of get myself to that place. And then I compare, in some ways, myself, when I visualize myself, where do I fit? Am I most like the neutral person? When I visualize myself, do I have that same similar feelings that I have toward the neutral person? Do I have similar feelings toward the person that's easy to love, or the person that I have conflict with or unresolved issues with? And that gives me a sense about where I am and how I'm regarding myself that day or that part of my life. So again, all of it's about paying attention to what you feel and noticing it. And there's kind of a mantra quality to this version of it, where you're uttering these phrases over and over again toward yourself or toward somebody else. What I love about meditation, there's lots of books out about meditation and the physiological and psychological positive impacts that the research shows, is that our science is catching up with something that is centuries old. Right? Our science is beginning to recognize something that intuitively humankind has known for a long time. So some of the benefits are included on this list. It decreases chronic pain. It can help people deal with chronic pain. It decreases PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and the symptoms associated with it. It decreases schizophrenia spectrum disorders, which is fascinating. It's effective even in small doses. I think that's an important point. Because again, like with any meditation, one of the barriers to the practice is that you've got to be good at it right away and do it a lot. Versus any of this. I remember the first time that I was introduced to this in our program a few years ago. And I remember that first day that it made a difference for me. And it kind of cemented itself to my consciousness of a way of thinking about people and in various aspects of my life. And then it has long-term impact, right? It can change brain functioning, brain chemistry, brain structure, right? I think that's a fascinating, important, and compelling aspect of it. Most simply put, it increases positive emotions and decreases negative emotions. It's practical and it can blend into the practice of your daily life like I've been talking about. I encourage all of you. Some of you might be more experienced than me, be very experienced. I'm very moderately, very beginner in this practice. I encourage all of you, when I show the links a little bit later, or find your own, you can find it on an app on your phone, is practice this. Led by one of the guides, one of the audio versions of this. And share with us in an upcoming webinar or an email what kind of difference it made or how it was for you, or it's something that you start to fall in love with. If there's anybody on here who's already done it, I'm happy to read quotes, glad to read quotes about your successes or struggle with this practice if you've ever tried this. It changes you, and that change impacts the way you are in the world and how you relate to other people in the world. Barbara Fredrickson and her colleagues found that practicing 7 weeks of loving kindness meditation increased love, joy, contentment, gratitude, pride, hope, interest, amusement, and awe. These positive emotions then produce increases in a wide range of personal resources. For example, increased mindfulness, purpose in life, social support, decreased illness and symptoms, which in turn predicted increased life satisfaction and reduced depressive symptoms. That's a pretty compelling paragraph in terms of what their research has found. Positive emotions broaden thought action repertoires. And I've talked about thought action repertoires in terms of response flexibility, right? The ability to take a moment of stress or discomfort or something that triggers you and to be able to respond to it calmly, curiously, patiently, deliberately, thoughtfully, right? That's what they're talking about, right? And that makes sense that meditation practice, and specifically this one, would do that, because you're really reversing trauma responses, right? You're not allowing for, or you're interrupting the amygdala hijack that comes from a trauma response, right? When that lower part of the brain that senses fight, that senses threat and goes into fight or flight mode, right? So you're calming things down. Positive emotions undo lingering negative emotions, of course. Positive emotions fuel psychological resiliency. Positive emotions build personal resources. Positive emotions fuel psychological and physical well-being. I'm sorry, that's a slide from another webinar. There's another example of something, another practice, another template for it, specifically as it regards to forgiving yourself. That's something I want to emphasize tonight. Take a comfortable position and close your eyes. Relax and deepen your breath. Remember a situation where you have not been able to forgive yourself. With the kindness of a best friend, repeat this phrase: for any hurt I caused myself or others, knowingly or unknowingly, I offer myself forgiveness. Repeat as many times as you like. When you feel a wave of kindness wash over you, just be with that feeling for a moment. If feelings of unworthiness surface, breathe deeply, accept the feeling, and remember the goodness in your wish and forgive yourself. When you are ready to end, wiggle fingers and toes, release any guilt you are holding, exhale it out the body, and open your eyes. And then give yourself credit for doing something difficult. There's a saying in Buddhism that says, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. What I love about this particular version, this practice of the metta, is this idea of how forgiving ourselves is going to lead to a sense of kindness toward other people. I think it's scary for a lot of us because I think a lot of us have been raised to believe, have grown up to believe that the way that you stay on track, the way that you do the right thing or good things in life is you have this kind of rigid, angry schoolmaster inside of your head that punishes you when you do poorly. So the idea of repeating the phrase, for any hurt I've caused myself or others, knowingly or unknowingly, I offer forgiveness, might be frightening or uncomfortable. Because if this schoolmaster is not in charge anymore, what are the rules and what good will I do, or will I be completely hedonistic? My experience as a clinician, it's been part of my evolution as a human being over the last 20 years. My experience tells me that this kind of, I'll call it grace, forgiveness, when extended to somebody, or when one is able to, again, metabolize it, take it in themselves, that the result is a desire to do kindness and love and give away one's gifts to other people. So this is the difference between a more behavioral, shame-based kind of approach, when I think about this, to a much more compassionate approach. One of our therapists just released a blog today. We just recently released a blog, I should say, of one of our therapists, Lauren Roberts, where she talks about meeting resistance with compassion. That's the same kind of idea where I talk about honoring or understanding the defenses. I was talking to a therapist this week that I do some supervision with about this idea that I've talked about this before with you all, that it's not too hard a lot of times, or one can get into the practice of knowing what is the quote-unquote right thing to do, the ideal thing to do, right? Some things are actually very simple. We know what would be the best thing for us and for the situation to do, but we don't always want to do it. So there's a couple of ways we can respond to that. We can use shame and guilt, intimidation, punishment. We can do all that to ourselves or to the other person. Or we can do the therapeutic thing. And this is my thinking about therapy. Therapy is to work on that energy inside of us that leads us to not do what we know would be the best thing for us, right? That's what therapy is. It's to work on that stuff. In my mind, therapy isn't coming up with the right thing to do, coming up with the ideal thing to do. That's a tiny fraction of it. But it's understanding that energy that pulls us to not speak our truth, to not set a boundary, to not leave a situation when we know it's best for us, on and on and on, in examples, right? And that, if we can be gentle with that, if we can love that part of ourselves, if we can understand that it comes out of a wound, right? It's this kind of a practice that can add to our therapy, add to our psychological understanding that can help us to do this. Albert Einstein said, a human being is part of the whole called by us universe. A part limited in time and space, our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature and beauty itself. Here are some of the places that I found. You can find your own. I mean, Google it, and there's a limitless number. But here's I was kind of searching and putting together this webinar. I thought there's a couple here that I'll just share with you. One is from Berkeley, and I found one on YouTube also. You can copy the URLs or take a picture of that there. Um, and then this is a practice similar to this that I wanted to share with you. It's from the book You Are Here by Thich Nhat Hanh. It's a way of that he talks about looking at our issues, our problems, our limitations, our symptoms, if you will. He calls it the Dear One idea, the Dear One approach. He says, Dear One, I'm here for you. You should talk to your depression or your anger just as you would to a child. You embrace it tenderly with all the energy of mindfulness and say, Dear One, I know you are there and I'm going to take care of you, just as you would with a crying baby. There's no discrimination or dualism here, because compassion and love are you, but anger is too. All three are organic in nature, so you don't need to be afraid. You can transform them. So again, it's this idea that I think is the core of therapy, that I think is what is above and beyond the techniques and the theories. I think those are valuable tools, but if they're not nested in this compassionate approach, my experience is it's hard to have universal and long-term healing. And the more we practice this in our lives, with ourselves and with our family, with our children, the more that we can extend this process, not just in the therapeutic program or in the therapist's office, but in our homes and throughout our entire experience. So, all right, somebody was asking to repost the slide, the first slide that contained the theory. Pali is a language. Metta is in the Pali language. It's in Sanskrit. It's written some of the way. It means those things: benevolence, loving kindness. Next slide. Oh, this one. Yeah, this is a version of it, a very, very common version of it. So you're welcome to take a picture of it. You can also get these. You can also always ask for the slides if you still are logged onto the parent portal. And everybody has a lifetime membership to the parent portal, to a limited part of the parent portal. You can't see the current group pictures and group journal, but you can get the slides there too. You can download the slides from the website. So there's that. All right, I'll leave that up while I'll take any other questions. Are there any questions or any other comments that anybody who's practiced this or had some experience or exposure to it, or that they've heard from their child? Some children just catch fire with this stuff out there and talk about it, how it's affecting their anxiety, their mood, their stress, and really take it home with them. I have a comment from a parent here that says, my meditation practice is very basic and at times sporadic. When it is sporadic and I go back to it, I wonder why I let it go. I look forward to trying this particular practice. This is so helpful. Please, like I said, it's an invitation for all of you. It would be nice for you even to share with your child that you tried something unusual or uncomfortable outside of your normal practice for them, and tell them if it worked. And the upside is it takes the ones that I looked at today were anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes. So that's all it takes. And again, if you don't find yourself in full enlightenment and full focus the entire time, just pay attention to what you're thinking. Just observe it, non-judgmentally, and then gently bring yourself back to the focus and to the led meditation. Another comment from a parent that says, I've been practicing loving kindness meditation for 2 years. It's difficult to convert into everyday life, but I keep trying. It will yield results. I love that comment. It's almost true about everything that I think of in terms of my own therapeutic and mindfulness practice. It's difficult to put into practice, but I keep trying and it yields results. Absolutely. Thank you. Any other comments while I go to the last bit of the slides? I'll go over some announcements, and then we'll get to any other last questions that have come in. We ask every parent to go to 12-step support groups while their child is with us. So if you haven't done it yet, please start. Go to either any combination of Al-Anon, CODA, Families Anonymous. You can also go to NAMI.org to find free classes and resources. You can listen to all of these webinars on podcasts. You can listen to them. I usually put them in the library the day after, within 24 hours. So they're available to listen to. You can download them. You can listen to them while you're in the car, while you're on the subway, on the train, whatever. On the iPhone, you go to the podcast app and you search Evoke Therapy programs. If you have an Android device, download the SoundCloud app and search Evoke Therapy programs. Also follow us on Twitter and Instagram. @Evoke Therapy is our name. And then on Facebook, search Evoke Therapy programs. The Second Nature Alumni Foundation on Facebook is an organization that helps people that can't afford therapy. Also, you can go to our blog. My book, The Journey of the Heroic Parent, is available on Amazon. You can also buy an audio purchase. To go to the Parent Alumni Foundation on book page through the Amazon Smiles program, books that are recommended by our therapist. It's the same price. If you buy the books there, a percentage of the proceeds goes to the charity to help people that can't afford it. The next workshop that we would like all current parents to go to, this is a request that all current parents go to a workshop. You can combine this with a visit to your child if the timing works according to your therapist at Evoke. Is November 18th and 19th. For more information or to RSVP, contact Gail at evoketherapy.com. If you're in the program now, we do these about every 5 or 6 weeks, so I encourage you to jump on this one if you possibly can, because you may not have another opportunity. The next Finding You starts tomorrow, so we're all full up with that. I will have announcements for the December through March Finding You dates. You can also sign up for a personal intensive. These are private intensives. These are personal intensives, adult intensives that we run out of our brand new Park City property. So you come in for 3-4 days. You look at your own stuff. You look at family of origin. We do mindfulness practice. We do family of origin work. It's very powerful emotionally. And then we give you some tools and some skills to kind of anchor those experiences. It's just a cathartic experience, but how can this apply going forward in your life? So that's what we do at those. If you have any interest, go to our website. If you have any questions, you can call admissions or go email us at intensives@evoketherapy.com. Parent support groups be in Chicago next week at the Renaissance in Chicago on the North Shore, 6:30 to 8:30 on Thursday the 16th. Southern California, that's a Sunday afternoon again. It's a potluck followed by a meeting, 4 to 5 p.m. potluck, followed by a 5 to 7 p.m. meeting. It's the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and when I posted it today on my own Facebook page, I said it was perfect timing because you're right in the middle of all the holidays. So if you're in town, it's right after Thanksgiving and before the December holidays. It's a great opportunity to get recentered and regrounding, because while the holidays are often a time of celebration, they can be a time of stress with family and with extended family. Then I'll be back in New York on December 7th, 7 to 9 p.m. Email Andrea at evoketherapy.com for more information, or to RSVP. Pursuits are our adventure trips for families or for young adults, all international trips, or anywhere where there is adventure. You can design and create your own trip. All right. Any last questions? It looks like there's a couple. Just this past week, a parent says, just this past week, my therapist started using an inner child meditation as a grounding tool, still having issues with the early negative messages. We will be starting all of our sessions with this meditation in the future. I personally, one of my favorites are inner child meditations. You can also bring your inner child into the metta meditation, right? You can visualize them. One of my early experiences with my own inner child is when I saw my own inner child, when I visualized them during meditation. I didn't have warm, nurturing feelings for the inner child, and that has progressed over the years. So I love it. I love it your therapist is doing that, and I think it's again, it's not airy-fairy stuff. This stuff is evidence-based. This kind of work makes a difference in the way that we think and feel and how we process information. So I'm really happy for you that they're doing that kind of work. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for this webinar, parent says. It was nice to have some help items that are different than focusing on the caretaker-child relationship. Absolutely. I'm glad it's helpful. And again, I say this apologetically. It's not my area. I'm not an expert on this. I'm a novice practicer of these kinds of meditations. But in my early phases of practice, they have made a big difference for me, and I've seen them make a big difference. Like it says on that one research slide I had, even in small doses, even early on, it can make a big difference. And some of our students claim that right away. I've been practicing meditation for several years, another parent says, and have found it transformational. How do you get your clients invested in practicing meditation? I have a 15-year-old and think he would really benefit. You know, the nice piece is wilderness therapy kind of lends itself to that really easily and well. When you take away all the noise and stimulation and the electronics, right? They're much more likely to try this without a lot of pushing, and we don't push it for sure. In fact, sometimes they'll opt out of it, and we just go ahead and do it with the rest of the group, but they'll eventually give it a try, especially when they hear the testimonies of the other clients. So for us, it's a process of attraction rather than too much promotion. It's an invitation, and we have an advantage of doing it in the wilderness. Also, when we do it at our retreats, when we do it at our therapeutic intensives, where people come, they're coming willingly, of course, but I've done it with families, with the children in families, in those situations too. And people are usually willing to give it a try. Also, there's another thing. We can get your children to do things a lot easier than you can, right? I was just talking to a client recently where they were saying, I got the same advice from my parents for years that I got from my therapist, and I took my therapist's advice immediately, even though I know it was something my parents. So there's an advantage there. And so sometimes having somebody else do some of the heavy lifting can be helpful. And, for example, I have families, I have a couple of private family intensives I'll be doing the next month or so where they're bringing their children, right? They're going to expose them to that also. And they're going to be outside of their comfort zone. The parents are potentially when they're doing it. So, can siblings come to the parent support group in California? He's almost 14 years old. Where's the meeting? If you click on it, if you go to our social media, if you did not get the invite today, please email Melanie@evoketherapy.com. If you did not get the email for the Southern California Parent Support Group today, and you live in Southern California, email Melanie@evoketherapy.com and let her know that so that she'll add you to the list. It's in Monrovia this time. We usually do it in Studio City, but we're mixing it around for a certain reason. And I wouldn't kick him out, but it's probably not appropriate for a 14-year-old. It's for parents and for parent support. So I've had children come to them before. I think sometimes they're bored. I was speaking to a group of parents in South Carolina at a program last week on Thursday, and there was a 11-year-old, I think it was around 11 years old, in the front row of one of the tables near the front, and he was squirming in his seat. Sometimes he was down on the ground and laying on his seat on his stomach. But his mother came up to me afterwards, and she said, I thought he was not paying attention. She didn't have anywhere else for him to go. She said, he thought it was a great talk, and he said that his sibling, who was in the program, could really benefit from it. So that can happen. But my general answer is, it's for parents, and so we don't typically invite children. It's not inappropriate for them, but it's not geared toward them, and I don't want to have to gear it toward them, and then compromise the parent support. So my answer is a soft no. It's not for them. Do you need to be a current client to come to meetings? Absolutely not. You can be an alumni. You can be a friend of an alumni. Long time out. So absolutely. And if you're not an alumni and somehow you found out about these, you can email me, Brad@evoketherapy.com, and just tell me your situation. I'm happy to include you on the invite list. And if you're not getting the invites, please email Melanie@evoketherapy.com. That goes for any of the areas that we do parent support groups. If you're not getting the email invitation, please email. And sometimes people fall off the list for what reason, we do not know why. All right, folks. Thanks for joining us. I hope this was a helpful point of contact. Hope that you'll all give it a chance and give it a try in the next few days, maybe over the weekend. Find a voice, find a recording or our YouTube. Type in loving kindness meditation and find one and just give it a try, give it a practice and see what you think. Have a great and safe weekend, and I'll talk to you next Monday. Take care. Bye-bye.